Hello, my friends. I hope you've been having a wonderful day today. Um, I'm not sure where to begin. I wanted to explain a little about the color red and the things that I've learned about it. When I was attending beauty school a couple years ago, we learned about blue light therapy and red light therapy and yellow light therapy. And the thing that fascinated me and that I was drawn to the most was red light therapy. And coincidentally, there was a Planet Fitness just a few doors down from my beauty school, and I joined and I began doing red light therapy for myself. And being a woman over 40 years old and living at such a high elevation, you can imagine that my skin and my hair had turned to, because normally I already have pretty dry skin, but living at a high and extreme dry elevation, um, my skin had begun changing really quickly. My hair had turned really thin and brittle within 4 months of living in this state. And so as I began to do red light therapy a few times per week for about 10 minutes each time, I began to notice a change very quickly in my hair and skin. My skin's ability to retain moisture and to produce collagen on its own again, and my hair's health and shine began to return, and the thickness as well. Now, there's not much research done on red light therapy, but as I began to feel these results, what was interesting is that when I began doing it at first, I was doing it for 12 minutes per session, 3 times per week. And that seemed to be a little much for my body because I began sweating, meaning toxins were releasing quickly. And I began also to feel like I was starving all the time because now all of a sudden, my digestive tract seemed to be working a lot more effectively. And so I could digest things a lot quicker. And as a result, I was becoming more and more hungry. And so as that settled down after about 2.5 months of doing consistent red light therapy, then I also realized that I was losing weight pretty quickly. Um, and I began working out, not nearly as much as I had done previously for the majority of my life, but for about an hour, 3 times per week. And by the end of beauty school, I started the red light therapy and the working out about 4 months or 3.5 months before I graduated. And by the end, it was unbelievable the transformation that my physical body was manifesting. Um, Meanwhile, there were also a lot of things, underlying spiritual things that were being transformed for me as well, and neural pathways that were being rewritten just because I had changed the environment that I was in. So, over time, I have learned so many things about the color red and the symbolism. And so, I wanted to share some of these things with you and share a little bit about my transformational journey, which began 8 years ago. Um, First, a quick side note. I wanted to end that story by saying that at the very end of beauty school, like I said, I was working out a lot less than I normally did throughout my life. I was at my lowest weight ever, even a little lighter than high school. I had a very visible 4 pack and um, could do 20 pull ups per workout with no problem, and was squatting 265 pounds 50 times per workout. That was by far the highest and the strongest I've ever been. And I have to share a little background to help you understand that I've always been an athlete. That in college, when I was throwing the javelin on a full ride scholarship, I was working out up to 6.5 hours per day. And so, but I had never looked as sculpted or felt as happy and healthy as I did at the end of beauty school. So I'm going to talk about our brain heart connection, also the way that our brain influences the environment and or the chemistry of our blood, which in turn um, translates into our DNA code. So I began recognizing several years ago as I had desired the gift of discernment and understood its value in the crazy times that I knew we were coming into. I had not realized how much discernment encompasses. But I began to recognize patterns and realized that numbers, colors, things like that had a very specific pattern and role in learning to decode the truths and the mysteries of the universe. And so I had a great desire in my heart to understand how colors correlated to numbers and how they actually affect us in a spiritual and metaphysical way. And so I began intuitively and through my book studies, studying about different elements and things like that, began to learn about the color red. Now, the color red can symbolize passion, humanity, love, trauma, the feminine aspect of God and of ourselves, and several other things. The color red is one that has in different cultures maybe symbolized warning and emergency. So the color red has become greatly significant to me. It can also symbolize power. Um, as I began doing red light therapy and noticing the effects it had on me, I was also parallel learning about the spiritual concept of red and how when we are able to, when certain demons and shadows come up and are ready to be healed, they make themselves known to us over and over again until we start paying attention. And then we have the opportunity to kind of get to the root of why it is that certain things trigger us and be able to understand that there was possibly something that happened and even multiple things that happened through generations of our DNA that kind of reiterated a message that was not based in the truth of who we are as divine beings. And so as I began paying attention to these things that were happening that were paralleling each other to bring to my awareness traumas that were encoded in my own DNA, that were reiterated through my own experiences in life, then I had the ability now to recognize through these triggers again that there was some lie that was deeply embedded into my DNA coding that was compounded over and over and over again because when our subconscious is believing a specific lie, then our as a law of attraction in the universe, the way that the universe works, we attract to ourselves again things that would reiterate that because whatever our subconscious mind is telling our bodies, then our bodies are going to reflect that. And our experiences are going to reflect that. And people around us are going to reflect that message. So I made it a goal as I began to understand how trauma works and how when traumas happen, that we get in stuck in a feeling often of helplessness or I am not good enough. And so our job is to figure out the root cause, the lie, the demon that has grown so powerful over time that, again, our bodies reflect it. People around us reflect it back to us. Our um, our mental and emotional state reflects it. So, in order to move beyond or through the trauma and be able to live beyond our subconscious mind, calling the shots and dictating the quality of our life based on mixed messages that are often riddled with lies that we believe, we have to come to a place where we can go from a feeling of helplessness to a feeling of empowerment or power and authority over our own lives. The way to do this is to begin telling ourselves truth that counteracts the lie. For the past 5 years or so, I had begun to catch on to this and been able to figure out what my truth was. And there's often a theme, an overriding theme that I begin telling myself and try to live every part of my life out of the truth of that theme. So, for example, last year, my theme was God is gracious. Now, to me, in essence, God is the truth and the light and pure love. And so the truth, the light, and pure love is always gracious. And the thing to me is that if God is gracious, then I too am gracious toward myself and others equally. So I needed to begin rewriting neural pathways because up until about 4 years ago, I had a pretty awful and toxic relationship with myself through perfectionism that was very much generational and cultural and in the family that I was raised in. So, my truth was God is gracious. And also, the thought came return to Eden. Now, Eden to me is a state of heavenly bliss and a childlike curiosity and wonder and excitement about the world around us and exploring it. In humility, it also can represent Zion or the city of peace. So, my goal last year was to return to that state of childlike bliss and to learn to guard and protect and align myself so that I was at peace and content and grateful and not longing or feeling like a victim in any way. And part of that, and part of the greatest part of my healing and shift within was to see myself as a divine being, to give myself a lot more grace, and in turn, more easily be able to give those closest to me grace. And so I wanted to share also my most recent truth um, that's come to the surface. The things that are trauma based or lie based will be triggered and triggered and triggered until we start paying attention. And so, my new truth now is that people are just as excited to hear what I have to say as I am to share it with them. My greatest desire and purpose in this life has always been, and I tapped into this from a very young age, to help people to remember who they truly are and to begin tapping into their fullest potential. And so, as I've developed my talents and learned the different spiritual gifts that I have tried really hard to impart of these truths so that other people can tap into a greater amount of peace, wisdom, joy, and freedom in their own lives. So, in the color red, I see that it is nothing to fear, that it is all about abundance and power that we use not to control others or to eliminate their ability to choose and to thrive and to be happy, but instead to use it always to help empower ourselves and others to stand up in their fullest potential, to know that they are perfectly loved and valued and accepted as they are, and that they are enough, that we are all enough. We're good enough. We're gracious enough. And the more we tell that to ourselves, the more that we begin thinking these powerful truths in our minds, you see what happens is that the brain actually creates the chemistry or the environment of our blood, which is that life giving force. That's why I love that red represents love and passion as well, because our blood is the life giving force, and pure love is also that life giving force. And if we have enough oxygen going through our blood, carrying the right nutrients, and if toxins are being eliminated so that they're not running in our blood as well, then our blood is pretty pure and pretty efficient at its job. And as we, through these truths, again, introducing these truths and telling them to ourselves over and over and over again, we literally dismantle or dislodge through the free flow of our blood that's full of oxygen, which to me is another symbol for truth. Then our blood can literally dislodge and my little boy is screaming. I think I need to go tell them to go to sleep and get them off of Minecraft. Anyway, my boys are the only ones that ever fight. We have some healing to do there. Okay, so in our blood carries the most sacred code for our DNA. And as we create a better and better environment for that DNA through our thoughts, through truth, then our DNA can become more refined and can actually transform over time into a more pure and robust and I'd say symmetrical, orderly, beautiful, and reflect more of our divine potential over time. There's a video that I did where I put photographs of myself from 2012 to now. And it was about 2012, 2013 that I began waking up in spirit and began doing my deepest soul work. And the transformation on a physical level is undeniable. And so I encourage all of you, as your triggers start coming up to the surface over and over and over again, to, our bodies tell us if there is stuck energy. We start feeling pain, and we kind of can't ignore that after a long time. So that's our body's way of letting us know that there's something that needs to be shifted and moved through and healed. And so our souls also do that for us, kind of attract to us the things that we need to have come to the surface so that we can begin healing our own DNA and transforming it. And so, yeah, I hope this is able to help someone now in this present moment, even as I speak, and perhaps no one is listening right now, but perhaps there will be hundreds and thousands and even millions that will listen in the future. So I'm going to do this for both now and the future, because even the words that we speak to ourselves and put out for others have an energetic and a spiritual value that can encompass and be far more powerful than we even know. And I'm beginning to understand this concept, how powerful even the resonancy of my voice is to the molecules in the air around me and things like that. So do some of your work today and think of Even close your eyes and for a moment try to clear your mind and think of something that would help to begin creating a more healthy and cohesive environment for the chemistry of your blood so that you can begin transforming by truth. I love you all and good luck in your healing journey. Namaste. I honor your journey as you honor mine.